Hi guys, is Nigel Farage losing his cool? Because in this clip that he uploaded to social media where he's obviously complaining about the right to vote being extended to 16 and 17-year-olds, and according to polling that I've seen, this would harm reform more than it would benefit them, he tried to shoehorn in things that are completely unrelated. It all sounded a bit Trumpian to me, and he sort of contradicted himself towards the end. Have a listen to this.
So the government today have announced seismic government election reforms. This means votes will be extended to 16 and 17-year-olds. Now, in the past, I've always said I don't support this because I don't think you should be able to vote in an election if you can't stand as a candidate. And I don't think we should have 16-year-olds in Parliament.
Why not? He doesn't go on to say why. Now, is it because 16-year-olds should be at school? If that's the argument, okay. But why would you make that the criteria? Well, you shouldn't be allowed to vote if you can't stand as a candidate. But not everyone wants to stand as a candidate, but many people want to vote. So you want to deny people the right to vote because some of them, or the majority of people, don't want to be candidates. That doesn't sound very reasonable to me.
But the problem with this is not only do half of youngsters not want the vote, but they have...
So we don't want to extend the right to vote because half of them don't want to. This is a bit like leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. We need to remove everyone's human rights because we believe half of the public want to do that. That's not really the case. It's not half the public want to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. But this is what Brexiteers like Farage and certain conservatives want to push. Yeah, we need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. We need to rip up protections for all human rights because some people want to leave.
Have to stay at school now until they're 18. And we know, and I get emails every week from bias in schools. This week, a 12-year-old was sent home for turning up at a party in a Union Jack dress. The educational establishment is full of left-wing prejudice, is full of anti-reform bias.
He brought a 12-year-old turning up in a Union Jack dress into a discussion about whether 16 and 17-year-olds should be allowed to vote. How the heck did you do that? It's completely unrelated. But also this thing of, 16 and 17-year-olds are at school, and because they're at school, they're being indoctrinated by the left, by left-wing teachers with an anti-reform bias. You actually have to present evidence to back up that claim. And once again, you want to deny people the right to vote because you don't like the opinions they hold or the opinions you believe they hold. This is very Trumpian. This is very dictatorial, isn't it? You're not allowed to vote because you don't agree with my opinions. Wow.
And frankly, if 16 to 18-year-olds at school are going to be able to vote, we're going to have to make sure that our education system is teaching kids to make their own minds up and not indoctrinating them.
You have to present evidence that they have been indoctrinated. Just because they disagree, because some of the teachers disagree with your politics, does not mean that the students are being indoctrinated. You have to present evidence. But once again, asking Reform UK for evidence is pointless.
Another thing, Angela Rayner says, for too long, public trust in our democracy has been damaged and our faith in institutions has been allowed to decline. Well, what have they done with voter ID at polling stations?
What's that got to do with trust in politics? This is the guy who sold people a lie, told people day in, day out, if we leave the European Union, everything will be better. What do you think that did to trust in politics? Trust in institutions? Now he's saying, well, we can't have trust in institutions if we bring in ID that doesn't have photos on it.
We've said it will be extended to include bank cards, but bank cards don't even have your photograph on. What they're bringing in here is wide open to fraud on a most extraordinary level. But of course they think it'll all be okay because most of the 16 and 17-year-olds are going to vote for us, the Labour Party. Well, reform is in second place with this age group. And I tell you what, if this is what's going to happen, we are going to give this Labour government the shock of their lives. We're going to get 16 and 17-year-olds to vote for us. You know why? Because like me, they want to make Britain great again. They want it to be a place that it's worth growing up in, going to work in. And I think you're going to see a big shift in the polls. The youngsters are coming to reform.
Okay, so then why would you be against the idea of extending the right to vote to them? At the very beginning, in this 2-minute clip, he said 16 and 17-year-olds should not be allowed to vote. And he gave his reasons. Wokeness, because they're not able to stand as candidates. So these are his arguments. They should not be allowed to vote. And then at the end of the clip, he says, well, the young people are coming to us. So which position does Nigel Farage hold? He's for or against extending the right to vote to 16 and 17-year-olds. Now, when he quotes his polls, obviously it's all cherry-picked. Young people are more likely to vote for Jeremy Corbyn or the Green Party than they are to vote for Reform UK. And of course, if you have an influx of a lot of people voting, this is going to water down support for Reform and the Conservatives. So the Conservatives and Reform are going to be worse off. Yes, some young people will vote for Reform, but if you have more people coming in to vote for other parties, this is going to be damaging to Reform and the Conservative. It's going to damage the Labour Party as well in the short term. They may benefit from this in the long term, but more young people voting, and young people generally don't vote, so you would need to have a campaign to convince them to come out and vote, but they're more likely to vote for parties that they believe represent their interests. Now, does Reform UK represent the interests of young people? What have they said about jobs? What have they said about education? What have they said about healthcare? What have they said about anything, housing, that impacts young people? No, they said what we'll do is we'll do some sort of tax dodge. That's not going to help young people. They want real policies that will benefit. The environment, what is Reform's position on the environment? We don't care about the environment. We support the fossil fuel industry. You're not presenting something that young people care about. So of course they're going to vote for left-wing parties like the Greens or Jeremy Corbyn if he has a political party. Reform will pick up some votes with young people. There are far-right individuals who are willing to vote for them, who are 16, 17-year-olds. But they're in short supply, at least at the moment. Things could change in the future. So I come back to this point. Is Nigel Farage losing his cool? Because this message was not the typical one you receive from the Reform UK leader. He's normally sticking to the points. But he started talking about 12-year-old girl turning up at a school, talking about how teenagers are being indoctrinated at school. It did sound very Trumpian to me. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.